The armed uprising in Russia has come to a conclusion as Yevgeny Prigozhin, the leader of the Wagner mercenary group, ordered his troops to stand down. Prigozhin abandoned his attempts to overthrow Russia's military commanders and struck a deal with the Kremlin. The Wagner forces have now withdrawn from the southern city of Rostov-on, where they previously occupied the district military headquarters. Prigozhin stated that Wagner was pulling its troops back to prevent Russian bloodshed. The Kremlin has announced that Prigozhin will be moving to Belarus, and all criminal charges against him and his soldiers will be withdrawn. Stefan Meister, the head of the Center for Order and Governance in Eastern Europe, Russia, and Central Asia at the German Council on Foreign Relations, shared his reaction to the events in Russia. He expressed surprise at what unfolded, considering it as something unexpected for both observers and the Putin regime. Meister believes that it exposed the weaknesses of the Putin system, highlighting its heavy reliance on personalized leadership. He notes that when Putin did not react immediately, the system was unsure of how to respond, ultimately leading to Prigozhin getting what he wanted. Meister describes the coup as bizarre and its outcome as peculiar. Regarding the impact on President Putin, while Ukraine sees it as a public humiliation and a sign of weakness, Meister argues that it revealed the vulnerabilities of Putin and his system. He views Putin's speech as detached from reality, indicating that Putin did not fully grasp the magnitude of the challenge he was facing. While there was temporary support from the top military and within the system, the state briefly lost its power of force in Russia. Meister considers this a significant weakness for an authoritarian and highly personalized state like Russia, which undermines Putin's image of invincibility. When asked about the end of the rebellion and whether it poses a threat to Putin's power, Meister does not believe that Putin is immediately threatened or that he will lose power soon. However, he acknowledges that the situation in Russia is more fragile than anticipated, with the possibility of unforeseen events shaping the country's future. Meister suggests that Putin may have underestimated Prigozhin, emphasizing the lack of contact between the two. Prigozhin needed to create a situation to get Putin's attention and confirmation of his continued support, which he ultimately obtained. Meister argues that Putin's loss of control over Prigozhin demonstrates the shortcomings of a personalized system with limited information about military operations and key figures. Regarding Putin's next steps, Meister speculates that while Prigozhin may currently be free, it is unlikely to last long. Putin will likely demonstrate that such actions will not be tolerated, potentially introducing stricter laws and utilizing propaganda to divert attention from the events. Meister believes that Putin needs to display strength at this point, but the exact manner in which he will do so remains uncertain. In terms of Putin's danger level, Meister asserts that Putin was already dangerous, with no limits to his actions. While his weakened state might make him more dangerous, Meister suggests that the primary concern lies within Russia itself, where people may feel less safe due to potential paranoia and increased repression. Yuri Reshetto, former Moscow bureau chief for DW, who is now based in Riga due to DW's ban from Russia, shared his perspective on the situation. He states that Russia is attempting to return to normalcy swiftly, downplaying the significance of the events. Highways to Moscow are being reopened, damaged streets are being repaired, and buses are running between the capital and southern cities. However, the counter-terrorist operation regime in Moscow and the Moscow region remains in effect, with the Kremlin spokesperson mentioning its upcoming cancellation. Interestingly, the day off scheduled for the following day after the events was not cancelled, leading some Muscovites to jokingly thank Prigozhin for the extra day off. Reshetto acknowledges the bizarre nature of the day, where people in Rostov posed for pictures with tanks and interacted with the soldiers. The presence of armed men in Rostov seemed more like an attraction than a real threat, but there was also underlying worry about the unknown outcome. The withdrawal of troops brought relief, and while some may have been pleased with Prigozhin's public humiliation of the Kremlin, Reshetto cautions against assuming that Russians will rise up against Putin en masse or protest the war. As for Prigozhin's whereabouts, there is no information available at the moment. the Kremlin spokesman mentioned that Prigozhin should go to Belarus and be exempt from persecution, which seems peculiar considering that just a day earlier. In terms of the impact on Putin's grip on power, Reshetto believes that Putin has been weakened by the events. Prigozhin was facing potential imprisonment of up to 20 years. However, he emphasizes that Putin's power is not crumbling, as demonstrated by the backing he received from various factions, including the Federation Council, the Duma, and Chechen leader Ramzan Kadyrov. The aftermath of the failed coup will likely involve swift attempts by the Kremlin to make people forget about it. Reshetto suggests that the tightening of laws in Russia may be a possible outcome. Regarding how the events are being reported in Russia, Reshetto draws a parallel to the 1990s when Soviet President Gorbachev was held in Crimea during an attempted coup. At that time, Soviet television continuously aired Tchaikovsky's ballets, which became a symbol of political uprisings in Russia. This time, the news anchor of Russian state television interrupted the regular program to report on Prigozhin. It was evident that the state propaganda apparatus was unsure of how to handle someone who was celebrated as a hero just a day before.